They arrived. Oh, goody. Oh, gimme. Hello. Hello. I have a surprise for you. I'm so excited because remember last time I came and they were rude to me and gave me a list. Well, they've had to make it up to me. They made it up to me because look at this. Look at this. Is how and full stop on a t-shirt. I have my own line of merch. There is Hal and Falstaff, my favorites. There is Julius Caesar. Everybody loves Caesar. There is Kate and Petruchio. Liked them. They were fun. There's Romeo and Juliet because apparently people like the dead teenagers. Whatever. And there is my own, very own theatre company, the Milwaukee Family Players. Yay! The crappiest theatre company in the world. But they get one too. And they are all available on the Black Cockie Press shop. Yes, they are all available on the Black Cockie Press shop. So you should all go over there and buy them. Tell them Her Infernal Majesty sent you. And believe me, you have to go buy them. You just totally have to buy them. I mean, Hal and Falstaff on a t-shirt. I know. He's so good. He's so good. I'm so excited. So, that is my big news. So, go and buy them. Go on. You know you want to. In fact, pause the video, go buy them, come back and watch the play and watch about the play. Okay? That's how much you should go buy them. Yes. There's a link below. There is a link below to go buy them. So, our video for this week. We have a comedy. Because I'm in a good mood. Though I really did like Henry V last time. I thought it was very fun. But, you know, apparently it's not a Christmas play. It's not a comedy. Okay, it's not as much a comedy as Henry IV Part 1. That one's good. But anyway, we're doing Measure for Measure, aren't we? Yes, Measure for Measure. Measure for Measure is one of the comedies that not everybody plays very often. It's actually very unlikely played nowadays. You don't see it very often. But Measure for Measure takes place in Vienna. Because remembering that Shakespeare puts his comedy somewhere else most of the time so that he can say stuff about his own London without actually getting in trouble, because the Master of Raffles is a little bit strict. So we set it overseas and we go, ooh, those wacky foreigners. When actually what we mean is us. You know. Anyway, this one is set in Vienna. And the Duke of Vienna has decided that he is going to let his deputy Angelo run things for a while. He's going to go away. And everyone's a bit like, why? What is going on here? This is a bit shocking. But really, the Duke wishes to test Angelo and find out what he would be like as a leader. Because Angelo is a very severe, very puritanical individual. Oh, God, I hate Puritans. They're so boring. They're so boring, and more than they're boring, they're hypocrites. They are hypocrites. Puritans of any variety are hypocrites because they're humans, and what they espouse can never actually be. Not when the mighty Aphrodite gets involved. My great auntie Aphrodite, and we'll see exactly how my great auntie Aphrodite completely messes this up. So Angelo is a Puritan, and apparently on the books, though nobody has actually bothered to use them, like anyone's lifetime, like 20 years, nobody has bothered to use any of the moral purity sex laws, the sex laws. Nobody's bothered to actually enact any of these laws, even though they're on the books, and they've got some pretty harsh penalties. And the Duke wants to see exactly what Angelo will do with these laws. Also, because these laws have been being winked at for so long and laughed at, in fact, because nobody actually expects them to be enacted because they've been on the books but nobody's touched them in so long, that it would be really, really bad if he actually enacted them in their full severity all of a sudden. It would, as the Duke, it would make him look like, terrifying. It would be like a god come to life and smiting people. It would be too much, and he would be exceeding his authority, even though it's within his authority, but it would be too terrifying. And his position would become not of a benevolent duke and a benevolent leader and a good, virtuous leader, but as a tyrant who is tormenting his people. Never, ever, ever underestimate the power of a tyrant tormenting their people. That is entirely how we keep order down here. But I digress. So he knows that Angelo will enact these laws and everyone will be so like, oh my goodness, what the hell is happening? And he will be able to see what will happen. It will frighten the people back into actually following the laws instead of not following the laws. But they're stupid laws. Stupid laws, as you will discover. And so that is his mind, and he disguises himself as a friar to be able to observe what is happening. So he lets on that he's gone overseas and gone somewhere, and no one knows exactly where he is, but he is actually in the city disguised as a friar to find out exactly what Angelo will do when he is given this power. Now, Angelo, being a Puritan, we don't like Puritans. Angelo, being Angelo and being a Puritan, starts to enact the heavy laws on the books. Aeschylus, who is the Duke's deputy and is now Angelo's deputy, is sort of like, these are a little bit harsh, man. Like, dude, you're harshing everyone's vibe. You're like totally harshing everyone's vibe. And to what ends? Why are you harshing everyone's vibe? I mean, yeah, sure, there are people who deserve to have their vibe harsh, but what do these people do? I mean, seriously, you're harshing everyone's vibe. I mean, he's not completely without a moral compass, but he's not a hypocrite. He understands that you have to have a little bit of leeway. You can't just go killing people for having sex. I mean, my God, what a thought that people have sex and you can't stop them. Why is it always sex? Why? Always sex. I mean, stealing, sure. Murder, absolutely. But sex, they're obsessed. They will wink at everything else, but, oh, no, sex. And, and Aeschylus is very much, look, dude, you're harshing their vibe. Like, fair enough, this guy, Pompey. But why him? Because we go to the suburbs where the brothels are, and they're having problems because they're getting pulled down under Angelo's orders. They're pulling down the brothels. Pompey, the pimp, and Mistress Overdone are like, what are we going to do? Well, apparently in the city, there is that one of the city officials has given sanctuary to all the sex workers in the city, and we'll go there. Don't worry, Mistress Overdone, it'll be fine. While they're talking, Claudio is brought in. Claudio and Juliet are brought through the streets, and Claudio is not a pimp. Juliet isn't a whore. These are gentle people. These are part of the, your upper crust, your moneyed elite, the kind of people who these kinds of laws do not usually touch. And they are being dragged through the streets because Claudio and Juliet, although they're engaged and would marry, but Juliet's dowry's been held up and there's been a bit of a hold up, but they're engaged. And it's actually more of a proper binding engagement, more a legal contract than modern people have. And so the marriage is going to happen. And so because the marriage is going to happen and because they're young, they've been kind of indulging. They have been under the influence of the mighty Aphrodite. And Juliet's kind of very pregnant. So it's a little hard to pretend, oh, no, we weren't. Because like everybody, it's, oh, we only did it once. Yeah, right, you did it once. Even my mother isn't that good at fertility. My mother is not that good at that. And she's the fertility goddess. The mighty Aphrodite isn't even as good as that. Do you know how many times she and Ares? Whoo, wow. Just saying. It's never just once. They may confess to just once, but it's never just once. It doesn't work like that. That actually creates a whole load of really, really bizarre myths in people's heads that, oh, you can get pregnant after just once. Like, yes, technically, if you're really but the odds. And then people, of course, think that, oh, we're not getting pregnant, and so therefore, something's wrong. And it might not be wrong. It might just be that, it doesn't take just once. That's why honeymoons, the whole point of honeymoons is you go on a honeymoon and you go at it like rabbits. And then you might actually get somewhere for a decent amount of time. Because you go at it too long, and then that's also a problem. But it's never just once. Never just once. And why? Why is it? It's only because they got caught, and then it's all the boo-hoo-hoo. Hypocrisy. Hypocrisy. I loathe hypocrisy. And so, here is Claudio being dragged through the streets to embarrass him and shame him and Juliet and say that they're fornicators. It's like, oh, for the love of... Did he kill anybody? No. Then what's the harm? Would he marry her? Yes. What's the harm? Even if he wouldn't marry her, what's the harm? Ugh. Do not like that. Do not like that. There are worse things in this world than sex. And yet those hypocrites cannot see it. So he then tells his friend to go to his sister who is at a convent ready to take her vows. And so this is what he does. He goes to Isabella. Isabella is going to be a nun. The mighty Aphrodite and my sister cousin Artemis have so many arguments about that one. Not that my sister cousin Artemis doesn't indulge. She just doesn't indulge with men. And yet people think that she's, oh, the virgin. Oh, we must be The only one who is actually a virgin is my Auntie Hester. And that's because Auntie Hester sits at home all the time. You know what? She is so boring, most people forget she exists. She is faded into the wallpaper because she doesn't get any. Because getting some is part of being a human being. Actually, it's part of being a goddess too. But, you know, we're talking about human beings, and they cannot live without it, which is why the mighty Aphrodite. Don't even attempt to mess with the mighty Aphrodite. She will get you. It's like food and drink and air and movement and companionship. It's up there on those lists, that hierarchy of needs. It's up there at the top of the needs. You take that away and people shrivel up and turn into wallpaper like my Auntie Hester. It's not good for you. You do not mess with the mighty Aphrodite. So, Claudio is taken off to prison. Aeschylus has attempted to remonstrate with Angelo that this is a little bit too much. You're harshing people's vibe. However, they meet up. They do have to deal with Pompey, who is so much a pimp. He's a pimp. He's an exploiter of sexual needs. He makes money of it. He exploits the women who sell it. So he is not actually having to do any of it. He is making money off the women who do it. And taking their money. So, you know, I mean, he's in a pretty, morally it's not good. But he is being treated as not so great and evil as this poor Claudio, who, this is the problem with absolutists. This is the problem with people like that. They are just so, But you shall see how the mighty Aphrodite deals with him. So Aeschylus basically tells Pompey, you keep out of trouble, because he doesn't want to harsh anyone's vibe, not that much. Keep out of trouble, or if I see you again, if you are brought before me again, you are going to prison. All right, not going to happen. You can pull down all the whorehouses that you want, but until you stop people eating and drinking, you're not going to stop people fornicating either. It's just it is as needful as meat and drink to them, as Pompey says. And all I do is provide a service that people will seek out, and you will have all the heads cut off or all the people hanged before you stop them doing this. And he's right. He's right. Doesn't matter that what Angelo wants. But now, and Isabella is brought before Angelo to beg for her brother. Now, Isabella is pretty much a Puritan as Angelo. And while she is brought unwillingly to beg for her brother's life, but she interests Angelo enough because she talks of very high-minded things and blah-de-blah-de-blah-de virtue, blah-de-blah-de-blah. I have to admit I'd rather tune out and start playing with my phone at that point. Anyway, Angelo tells her, come back tomorrow. And he is like, oh my goodness, I'm hot for her. This little wallpapery nun, or would-be nun. He's hot for the wallpapery little nun. I mean, oh boy, there's no accounting for taste. No accounting for taste. Anyway, see, I told you the mighty Aphrodite gets it. So here is this Angelo, who is so puritanical and so chaste. He's fallen for a nun, or as good as. And so he has her back the next day. Meanwhile, in the prison, the Duke has gone to see Claudio and has basically said there's really nothing can be done for you, and you should really just, try to reconcile yourself to your fate. And he sees Juliet and asks Juliet, are you really genuinely sorry for what you did? And she's like, oh yes, I'm so sorry. I'm genuinely sorry. I should never have done it. No one is. I do not like hypocrites. Be honest. You had fun. You got caught. Oh well. Did you do anything wrong? No. You didn't do anything wrong. Ugh. Hypocrisy. Hypocrisy. The mighty Aphrodite does not like that, and she will get you. Do not deny her. So, well, I think, anyway. Like, it's like, oh, I'm so sorry. What, does that mean you're never going to have sex again? No. So therefore, you're not sorry. Sorry only means that if you swear you'll never do it again, and let's be honest, once you two get out and get married, boom, you'll have like 10 children. You just will. So, are we supposed to believe you? No. Hypocrisy. Anyway, so Isabella goes back to see Claudio, and Claudio gives her the old sleep with me or your brother gets it. And she's like, no, I'm not doing that. I will tell everybody what you just said to me. And he's like, I mean, he drags this out a little bit. He tries to make it seem like he's being reasonable here, but ultimately it's blackmail. He's blackmailing her. It's like, sleep with me or I kill your brother. And she, because that is a really hard line. That is a consent line. Consent is not the same. Consent is a hard line. I have absolutely no problem with consent. I have a problem with people being hypocrites, but consent, oh no. And he is not only is he a hypocrite in that he would sleep with her. In fact, no, he wouldn't sleep with her. Angelo would rape her, because consent got under blackmail is rape. See, Claudio and Julia, they consented, therefore nothing wrong. Angelo would rape Isabella. He would rape her, and then he says to her, when she threatens to expose him, no one's going to believe you, honey. So I can pretty much do what I like, because no one is gonna believe you. And that is the danger of putting too much power into honor and virtue. And you know exactly how my thoughts of honor align. Have we not seen Falstaff? Have we not seen? Can honor? What use is honor to him that died a Tuesday? Nothing. Can honor set a bone? No. Can honor take away the pain of a wound, the grief? No. So what use is it? Honor, especially around that, is just used as a stick to beat women with, more so than men. Absolutely more so than men, because when there's a power imbalance, it is used as a stick to beat women with. Therefore, what use is honor? Consent, absolutely. Consent is key. Consent is a hard line. Mutual consent is vital. Consent is a hard line. Honesty, yes, but honor. Honor is dangerous, as we shall see. So Isabella goes to the prison, And she sees her brother, and her brother asks her, is there any possible remedy for this? And she says, oh no, nothing that your honour would not allow for. And he's like, you mean there is something? You know, I mean, it's like, there is an option here, is there? And he forces her to say, well, you know, if I sleep with him, Angelo, he'll let you go. And her brother is kind of like, you know, he's a young man who all he did was get his girlfriend pregnant, his fiancée, we would be married if it wasn't for the money type of situation. He's not even planning on dumping her. He would have married her. He was not, you know. So he is actually a perfectly virtuous person, apart from the fact that their genitals went a little bit crazy. But, you know, Aphrodite, you try being young and in love and delayed. Not going to work. And obviously, it was delayed a while because she's like ready to go. So they've been at this for some time. Anyway, he doesn't want to die. It's like, you know, that's a matter of faith. And quite frankly, I don't blame him. Who wants to come down here if they don't have to? Nobody. So he's like, is there a way? Is there a way? And she's forced to say, yes, if I do this. And he's like, well, you think you might find your way to doing that? Because I really don't want to die. At which she goes into a rage, and they fight, and eventually the jailer and the duke, the friar duke, go and have to separate them, and Claudio is sent back to his cell, and the friar talks with Isabella that I overheard what your conversation with your brother, and I have a bit of a solution to this. Angelo had a fiancée, much like your brother. And his fiancée, Mariana, is still perfectly willing to marry him. He dumped her because she didn't have a dowry. Her brother died and lost the dowry, and the dowry was lost. And so she would totally marry him again, but he won't have her. And he broke off their engagement really rudely and spread scandal about it. So he is the most dishonourable man. I mean, he's a pig. He is an absolute pig. He is a hypocrite, and he is a pig. But Mariana, I am sure, if we could come to an arrangement whereby you go back to Angelo and tell him, yes, I will, but only in the dark, and find out the place, and only for a short time, and then come back and see me, whereas I will have got Mariana to, you know, I will have spoken to Mariana and sounded her out that she could help you and help herself to a husband. And so that is what they plan to do. Pompey is now in trouble again with Aeschylus. He's been brought in again, and this time he's going to be sent to prison. So while the Duke sees this, and while they're talking, Lucio, who is Claudio's friend who brought Isabella to them, tells him, you know, this is all a bit much, isn't it? It's a bit much. It's crueling everyone's vibe. They're harshing our vibe, man. And it's all a bit, you know, this Angelo, he's a cold fish, really cold fish. In fact, they say that he was born of a mermaid. And and that he pees ice. He's so cold. That I know for certain. And that the Duke being away is very peculiar, leaving Angelo in charge. And there are some funny things to be said about the Duke too. And so the Duke is like, okay, this is interesting. I don't like you very much. Go away. But, yes, Lucio, has also confessed to the friar that he has a child by one of the whores. That this whole thing is going to end badly. That chaos has been loosed in this. In fact, in pulling in these laws, it has actually rendered the world as chaotic as it was before, when the laws were completely loosened. There is too much restraint, and before there wasn't enough. But there is chaos either way. Angelo has not created less chaos. He has created more chaos, more problems in attempting to solve this problem of sex. He's actually made a bigger mess of everything than existed before. It's a different mess. There's still a mess. It hasn't created the order that he wanted. So, the Duke goes to Mariana, and so does Isabel, and Isabel acquaints Mariana with the problem, and Mariana agrees to take Isabella's place because she would very much like her former fiancé back. God knows why the poor woman has no taste, but he must have something going for him. But she wants him back, and she will do this to get him back, since she's assured this is how she can get him back. She can get herself a husband this way. So she agrees. Pompey has been sent to the prison, and the provost tells him that in order to lighten your sentence, you can help the headsman with his job, because clearly they haven't been doing very many executions for a long while, and then all of a sudden we've got these laws back on the books, and there's suddenly lots of work, and now the headman needs some help with this. So Pompey is told, you can help him. And I was like, oh, well, better than nothing. Better than just sitting here and rotting. So he's going to help. The Duke returns, and a message comes down that Bernardine, a long-term prisoner and a murderer, and Claudio are to be executed at 8 o'clock in the morning. Claudio says that Bernardine is asleep, dead drunk, and will not be woken, and so, what can be done? The jailer, the provost, tells Claudio to, go look to your prayers, whatnot, because this has to be done. And the Duke thinks, well, is there a way of, hopefully that Isabella will be back in time. It will be back soon, and we'll be able to, his plan will be enacted. Is there an alternative that we can send? Or his plan will be able to be enacted. We don't know exactly what his plan is, and his plan seems to be a little bit made up on the go, and it gets really bad from this point on. So, Isabel still hasn't returned, but almost straight away, a letter comes from Angelo saying he wants Claudio's head cut off at 4 in the morning, 4 hours earlier, and he wants it brought to him no later than 5 in the morning. So Claudio is to be killed early because Angelo has basically had his cake and wants to eat it too. So he has had his assignation, and he still wants Claudio's head because he is a massive hypocrite. He will get his. He will get his. Mighty Aphrodite does not like being played with like that. You know, the mighty Aphrodite, the stories. You pray to her, she will get you what you want. And of course, the mighty Aphrodite is the one who gave the start of the whole Trojan War thing by giving Helen to Paris. Yeah. Consequences are not part of her scheme. She just likes to match people up. She likes shipping people. Yeah. Doesn't matter who they're otherwise married to or whatever. It's like, no, oh, look, I got the golden apple. I'm like the hottest. You can have Helen. Yeah, I know she's married to Menelaus, but who cares? You can have her. Yeah, that's my Auntie Aphrodite. She doesn't really think through consequences, and she's older than everyone. So she doesn't care what her nieces and nephews think. She has no compunction against, working her magic on Father Uncle Zeus. And why should she? She's older than him. She's one of the great old goddesses. Yes. They had to keep her around. Before Mother came around, she was the only fertility goddess there was. She still is. She's much more powerful than Mother. Mother is only agrarian. My smother is only agrarian. The mighty Aphrodite is what keeps all the everything else running. You annoy her, she'll switch everything off. Ooh, then the end of the world. Trust me, you do not annoy the mighty Aphrodite. So, they now have a problem. They are expected to produce a head early. The Duke is now like, okay, that derailed the plan somewhat. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Think. Bernardine! Let's kill him and send his head instead. And so they wake up Bernardine. But Bernardine, the reason Bernardine has been in prison for 9 years, in spite of having a death sentence over him, is he has worked out, he's not that bright, but he has worked out that if he is dead drunk from morning till night, he is never in a fit state to be executed. If he's never in a fit state to be executed, he can refuse to be executed until he's in a fit state. And he can just stay roaring drunk in the jail. And this has lasted him for a good 9 years. And he is adamant, I am not in a fit state to be executed. I refuse my consent. I'm not going to be executed. I'm too drunk. Bye-bye. See ya. This is like, oh dear, this is not good, because Angelo is expecting a head. Fortunately, a pirate has also died who happens to have very similar colouring in terms of hair to Claudio, and so he just died, and they're going to send his head instead. And this is why this is a sort of a funny one, because there's so much talk of death in this. This play is constantly talking about death, which is not usual for the comedies. So this is what makes this such a weird comedy. It's sort of odd, but it's not as bad as it's not in terms of like you can be played for laughs. It's not as bad as The Merchant of Venice. Yeah, well, we all know what I thought of that one. Don't we all? Yes. So they go and send the pirate's head to Angelo. The Duke is like, right, now what? Now I'm not going to tell Isabella that I have saved her brother, because he needs to expose Angelo. So he tells Isabella when she comes that the Duke that Angelo has killed her brother, that he could not be saved. It happened too quickly. But what she needs to do is, the Duke is returning in the morning, and she must go and plead her case with the Duke and expose Angelo. So obviously Isabella is very upset by this. And but she agrees to do this. The Duke then leaves, sends message to Aeschylus and Angelo that he is returning, and returns in state. Aeschylus and Angelo are like, what on earth are these reports that have been going around? This is so strange. But they're there. Angelo's ready to hand over power back to the Duke. And the Duke, of course, has to pretend he knows nothing of any of this, which seems a little bit cruel, but you will it all becomes clear what he is doing. So he arrives back and he's like, oh, how have things been? It's all been good, I hope. Yes. Yes. Oh, excellent, excellent, excellent. My trust in you hasn't been at all abused, has it? No, 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 no. Couldn't possibly have been abused, could it? No. And Isabella comes in and accuses Angelo of sleeping with her, and then in exchange for her brother and still killing her brother. And Angelo, of course, denies this. The Duke, in fact, will not hear it, and he expects Isabel to plead to Angelo because Angelo has not yet handed back his title of office. Now, exactly what Angelo said would happen, happens. Who would believe you, Isabel? Who believes you? All these eminent men, and you are saying this about a man whose reputation has been spotless, who has never done anything, who everybody knows is a good and virtuous hypocrite. Aeschylus is astonished and cannot understand what is happening, even though he's been like, what is happening here? The Duke is like, you are slandering this noble man. You will be sent off to prison. And Isabella has no recourse. Now, another is sent for who claims to be able to prove that Angelo is innocent. And that is Mariana is brought in. Mariana is brought in veiled. And she will not take off her veil until her husband bids her. She forces Angelo to ask her to take off her veil, whereupon she does. And Angelo is like, I'm not her husband. And she's like, oh yeah, you are. You are. We haven't had the ceremony, but you were my promised husband, and we've had sex now, so yeah, you're my husband. You don't know that you thought I was Isabella, but I wasn't Isabella. I was me. And I know we did it in the garden last night. Yeah. So Angelo, it just decides, oh God. This is, he confesses to this, and the Duke says, right, go with the friar who brought Mariana in and get married. Now, what does this say here about this friar who has brought on persuaded Isabella to slander Angelo? And so you talk to her, and I will be back in a minute. And he leaves and comes in as the friar, and he goes and tells all these tales of what has been happening, and that everybody is like, you're slandering everybody here. What you can go to prison too. I was like, no, you can't send me to prison because I am not a subject of the Duke. You can't touch me. Lucio, who has been egging everybody on this because he thinks, oh, this is fun, he's having a great time, he ends up pulling the cowl off the friar, who it's like, oh no, it's the Duke. Yeah, it's the Duke. Now that Mariana and Angelo have come back in. Prevost, who gave you the warrant for Claudio's death? It wasn't a warrant. It was a note. Well, off to prison with you. How dare you you killed someone off a note scribbled on a piece of paper rather than a proper warrant. How dare you? You can go to prison. You? What have you done? Huh? What have you done, Angelo? You are to be sentenced to death for the unjust death of Claudio. The Duke says, I apologize to you, Isabella, that this man, his rash actions made it impossible for me to save your brother. So he can die. Mariana, I only gave you a husband so that you could be provided for in your widowhood and could get you a new husband. That's the only reason I let him marry you. His property is forfeit to me. I give it to you in your widowhood. Get yourself a better husband. And Mariana is like, no, I don't want another husband. Please, 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 please do not kill my husband. Isabella, plead for my husband with me. And this is, I mean, he has killed her brother. At least everybody thinks he has killed her brother. And yet she does. She kneels down. Oh, like, nobody is that good. Nobody is that good. I may have problems with my brother cousins. But even I, and yeah, I have big problems with some of my brother cousins. But even I am not that nice. I would not do that, but you know, these good girls. Anyway, she does. She pleads for Angelo's life. Prevost returns saying, I have spared Barnardine. And the Duke's like, well, Barnardine, you've been playing this system for a very long time. You can go free into the custody of this friar. He's going to look after you, which Barnardine is like, okay, not too sure how I got out of this, but I guess I don't know that this is getting anywhere better than where I've been. I think he's been on a nice lurk for 9 years. But anyway, Barnardine, and then there is also this other prisoner that I saved who is the spitting image of Claudio, you know, sort of like that. We have a cousin of Heroes who is exactly like her, and if you will marry her, you know, yada, yada, yada. So obviously they bring in Claudio. Is this your brother? Yes, he's saved. Right, then we will spare Angelo. As for you, Lucio, just to tidy up all those loose ends, Lucio, let it be known throughout my city that anyone who has claim to you to come forward and you must marry them. And he's like, oh, no, I don't want to be married to a prostitute. Well, tough. So he is forced to marry Kate Keepsake. Anyway, one of the local prostitutes. Claudio marries Juliet. Mariana is married to Angelo. And the Duke offers himself to Isabella. And thus, the mighty Aphrodite is satisfied. And also, the laws are suddenly able to be enacted with mercy and clemency without harshing everybody's vibe. but also without being laughed at. And the Duke returns to his position of dignity and power. We still don't know whether Isabel accepts him. But I would say she probably does. She probably does, simply because that's more or less how Auntie Aphrodite runs with things. So, that is Measure for Measure. Very odd play. I'll bring you something else next time. Probably, might be a history. Might be a history. But anyway, go to the shop and buy my t-shirts. And I will see you again another time. Bye-bye. If you would like to support this channel, come across to the Black Cockie Press website, www.blackcockiepress.com.au, where you will find books and other writing services to help with your writing.